Summer holidays are over, it's time to get caught up. After a month of 1,000 leaks, we finally have official news of the Motorola Moto X, which concentrates on smarts rather than sky-high specs. A very interesting approach. There's a Nokia glance-like AMOLED information display when the phone's locked, processor support for an always-on listening circuit. OK Google now, etc. And a clear pixel 10 megapixel camera that claims to process 75% more light. Dressed in the usual Kevlar, the Moto X is based around a 720p 4.7-inch AMOLED display, dual-core 1.7 GHz Snapdragon S4 processor, 2 GB of RAM and 16 or 32 GB of internal storage depending on how you customize it. Yes, Americans get to decide every last cosmetic detail as well as storage capacity. It'll come to other countries, of course, but you can bet it'll be more locked down. Far higher end is LG's new flagship, the G2, with, get this, a 2.26 GHz Snapdragon 800 in a flippin' phone. 2 GB of RAM to match, a 5.2-inch 1080p display in a form slightly larger than the Galaxy S4, 32 gig of sealed storage plus a 3000 mAh sealed battery. Intriguingly, the camera claims to be 13 megapixels with optical image stabilization. I'll believe it when I see the results, given the sub 9mm thickness of the device. Slightly crazily, the volume and power buttons are now on the back of the device. Like Samsung, however, LG can't resist smothering the Jelly Bean device with software gadgets. Answer Me, Plug and Pop, Text Link, Quick Remote, Quick Window, Knock On, Guest Mode, and numerous Samsung-style camera modes are just the tip of the iceberg with a custom LG UI. So much that's different on the G2, but I shouldn't judge it until I've played with it, in fairness. Watch this space. Nokia has announced the Lumia 625, a mid-range but super-sized Windows Phone 8 device with a 4.7-inch screen and LTE. The screen's the odd part, being WVGA only in 2013 and LCD, but hey, for the price. Otherwise, internally, it's almost identical to the likes of the much smaller, best-selling Lumia 620 with 8GB of internal memory plus micro SD support, a 2000 mAh sealed battery and a 5 megapixel camera. Anyone who's followed the phone show for very long will know that I'm very keen to save you money. In fact, it's extremely rare that I recommend buying the very latest and greatest smartphones on the planet, at least not until A, they've had their bugs knocked out of them, and B, they've come down hugely in price. With this in mind, I've picked my top 3 smartphones that I can heartily recommend that definitely don't cost the earth these days, are readily available secondhand, and yet which have been updated to the very latest cutting-edge versions of their respective operating systems. In each case, there's the huge satisfaction of using the latest apps, latest interface, latest techniques, yet without paying top money or having the same money tied up in depreciating electronics. Where shall I start? Well, there's this, the Nokia Lumia 920, reviewed by me back in Phone Show 187. The verdict then was that the software and apps had a long way to go and the hardware was, well, underachieving. Yet last week, the Lumia 920 received the Nokia Amber update over the air, rolling in Windows Phone GDR2 and completely transforming the phone. Always on clock on an LCD screen, yes, it's possible. Double tap to wake, dramatically better camera performance for stills and video, better built-in apps, faster and more solid performance from the OS, yet with all the original advantages of the model. The fabulous display, the built-in wireless charging, the incredible loudspeaker and the 32 gigabyte capacity. All three, well, still almost unique in the Windows Phone world. You can pick the Lumia 920 up now new for less than £300 and £200 second hand, then upgrade it and enjoy. Skipping operating systems now, Android continues to intrigue me, but mainly because of Google's vision and not the scattergun experiments by the various licensees. Stock Android 4.3 is really quite impressive now. Yes, I still wish there were some of the UI bells and whistles from other versions, the carousel wraparound of TouchWiz, for example. But on the whole, I've never been happier with Android. With Google's app suite of Google Now, Google Maps, Drive, YouTube, Google+, Hangouts, and all working perfectly and continuing to improve on an almost weekly basis. And not surprisingly, these do work more neatly on stock Android 4.3 than when retrofitted to other UIs. The newest Nexus device remains the 4 made by LG. Their rumours of a 5 continue, and the new Moto X in the USA is a Nexus, well, by any other name. But my call here is still the 2 years old Galaxy Nexus with almost perfect form factor, landscape dock shown here, and gorgeous screen. Android is
somehow more beautiful on AMOLED with its midnight blacks. Plus there's the flexibility to just swap out or replace batteries, and the Galaxy Nexus is now dirt cheap at under £150 second hand. Downsides, well, weedy speaker, mainly. Finally, you may be impressed by Nokia or Samsung's record of updating older hardware to newer OS versions, but easily up with those two is Apple, which continues to update 2 and sometimes 3-year-old hardware to current OS versions, albeit usually without a feature or two. My call here for this feature is the 2-year-old iPhone 4S, still stunningly good hardware in banded steel, still very fast and with a great camera, display and speaker. Although Apple hasn't released the final version of iOS 7 yet for the world, we're still a few weeks away, the latest betas work perfectly on the 4S and with all the latest UI features and OS updates, bar some real-time camera filters and AirDrop. I've made no secret of the fact that I prefer the iPhone 4S to the 5, and 2 years after first sale, yet with iOS 7 on board, the 4S is the biggest bang per buck in the iPhone world, in my opinion. The Lumia 920, the Galaxy Nexus and the iPhone 4S, with almost 5 years on sale between them, don't sound very cutting edge, but as highlighted here, thanks to the relevant manufacturers and OS creators, there are many ways the perfect phones to upgrade to and end up with if you don't want to spend a fortune in the smartphone world. I can't think of many other areas of the modern world where products get upgraded time after purchase to include dramatically new functions. The smartphone world is pretty unique, in fact. Here's to my top 3, and here's to upgrades.